A notification popped up, and she covered her screen like I was the enemy. When I asked who it was, she said, "You'll twist it anyway," and a minute later, every alert was gone. Seattle, Washington. Seattle rain doesn't always fall hard. Sometimes it just hangs there, misty and stubborn, like it's waiting for you to admit you're not okay. That's what that week felt like. Everything damp, everything quiet, and every sound in our apartment suddenly louder than it should have been. I'm an EMT. I work nights, the kind where you learn to read a room in 2 seconds flat. Who's panicking, who's lying, who's about to swing, who's about to collapse. The job taught me to stay calm even when my pulse is punching at my throat. It also taught me something I didn't want to know in my own marriage. The calmest person in the room is often the one controlling the narrative. My wife, Marisol, is Dominican American, born and raised in the Bronx, Seattle by choice. She has that tight friend circle that looks like family, group chats, Sunday brunches, birthdays that last 3 days. When we first moved out here, I was grateful for it. It made the city feel smaller. It made us feel anchored. Then, without warning, it started to feel like a fence. It began on an ordinary Tuesday, right after I got home from a double shift. I smelled like antiseptic wipes and wet pavement. My boots left little dark crescents on the entry mat. Marisol was on the couch, legs tucked under her, phone held close to her chest like it was a warm mug. I dropped my keys into the bowl by the door and tried to keep my voice light. "Hey, how was your day?" "Fine," she said, eyes on her screen. I wasn't even suspicious yet. I was just tired and lonely in my own living room. I walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and stared at nothing. Behind me, her phone chimed. One of those bright, cheerful notification sounds that doesn't match any serious conversation. The kind that usually means a message, a tag, a new post. I turned just as a banner flashed across her screen. Rico. He doesn't need to know. Delete it. Marisol reacted like she'd been burned. Her hand snapped over the phone, palm flattening against the glass. She shifted her body so the screen faced the couch cushion, not me. It was instinct. Fast. Pure. For a second, we both froze. The apartment was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator's hum and the soft tick of the wall clock above the microwave. "Who's Rico?" I asked. Marisol blinked twice, then forced a small laugh that didn't touch her eyes. "My cousin," she said. "Why?" "That didn't look like cousin talk," I said, still calm. "It looked like, don't tell your husband talk." Her jaw tightened. She kept her voice low, controlled, like she was talking to a difficult patient. "You're doing that thing," she said. "What thing?" "Turning nothing into something," she replied. "You'll twist it anyway." "I'm asking a simple question," I said. "Who is Rico, and what am I not supposed to know?" Marisol stood up, and I noticed she'd already positioned herself on the right side of the room, near the hallway, where the light was better and her face looked softer. She held her phone tight and looked past me like she was already rehearsing what she'd say if someone walked in. "You came home wired," she said. "You're exhausted. Don't start a fight." "I'm not starting a fight," I said, and hated how often I had to say that lately. "Just show me the message." "No," she said, flat. The word landed like a door locking. Then she did something that made my stomach drop in a way I recognized too well, the way it drops when you realize a call is about to go bad. She tapped her screen quickly, thumb moving in a practiced rhythm. Swipe, hold, delete, confirm. The cheerful chime was gone. Her notifications vanished from the top of the screen. Then she went into settings and toggled something with the confidence of someone who'd done it before. I watched, silent, as the little banner area went empty, like the message had never existed, like my eyes had lied to me. That was my first moment of quiet horror, standing in my kitchen, still in uniform, realizing my reality could be erased in 10 seconds by the person I trusted most. "I didn't delete anything," Marisol said immediately, like she'd read the thought on my face. "You're imagining things." "I saw it," I said. She stepped closer, still on the right, eyes glossy on command. "You're scaring me," she whispered. The words were soft. The effect was violent, because now the problem wasn't the message. The problem was me. I took a breath the way I do before I walk into a chaotic scene. Slow in, slower out. "Okay," I said. "Then let's do this simple. Open the chat." Marisol stared at me for a long second, then turned her phone screen outward, just for a second, like a magician flashing an empty hand. A chat list. Nothing labeled Rico. No recent message thread with that name. Just harmless stuff. Grocery memes. A group called Brunch Crew. Her mom's contact. Her sister's. She lifted her brows like she'd proved something. "See?" she said, and I felt a cold, creeping sense that the proof was aimed at someone who wasn't even in the room. The next day, the friend circle began shifting around me like I'd stepped into the wrong current. It started small, a muted vibe at the cafe we always hit on Thursdays. Marisol's friends, Camilla, Javi, Nessa, usually greeted me with loud hugs and jokes. That morning, Camilla barely met my eyes. Javi's smile looked stapled on. Marisol sat on the right side of the booth, close to Camilla, phone face down but never more than an inch from her hand. She kept brushing her thumb over the edge like a habit. Nessa asked me about my shift, but her tone sounded like she was checking a box. "You doing okay?" she said. "Yeah," I answered. "Why?" She paused, glanced at Marisol, then shrugged too fast. "Just, you seem stressed lately." Marisol sipped her coffee and said, almost casually, "He's been snapping." I turned to her. "I have not snapped." Camilla's eyes widened a little, like she was bracing for something. Javi's knee bounced under the table. Nessa stared at her cup. And there it was again, that quiet horror, watching people adjust their bodies around a story they'd already been told. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out without thinking. A message preview popped up from an unknown number. "Stop pressuring her. Everyone knows." My heart thumped. I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen until it dimmed. Marisol noticed. "Who's that?" she asked, too casual. "No idea," I said, "but it's not normal." She shrugged like it proved her point. "See? Drama follows you." I stared at her, trying to find the seam where my wife ended and this performance began. "Did you give someone my number?" I asked. Marisol's eyes flashed. "Why would I do that?" I didn't answer, because a man at the next table looked over and I felt my body clamp down into calm. Public places are dangerous when someone wants to paint you as unstable. We left the cafe, and the drizzle had turned into that fine mist that gets into your hair, your collar, your patience. Marisol walked half a step ahead of me, phone already in her hand again. The second her screen lit up, she angled it away. At the car, I caught a reflection in the side window. My face, tired and drawn. Marisol's face, tight and controlled. Camilla behind us with her phone lifted like she was checking something, but the lens was pointed straight at our backs. A frozen frame burned into my mind. 4 people in a parking lot, damp air, my keys in my fist, Marisol on the right with her phone held close like a secret, Camilla in the background with a glowing screen, and me standing there with my mouth half open like I didn't know what scene I'd walked into. I drove home in silence. Marisol stared out the window, then down at her phone, then out again, like she was timing something. That night I tried one last simple test. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't demanding. I just said, "Let me see your notification settings." Marisol laughed, one short, sharp sound. "No," she said, "you don't get to audit me." "I'm not auditing you," I said, voice steady. "I'm trying to understand why messages appear and then vanish." She stared at me for a beat, then walked to the bedroom and came back with a small notebook. She set it on the counter like she was presenting evidence. On the first page in neat handwriting were dates and phrases that made my chest tighten. Monday, he accused me. Tuesday, he demanded my phone. Thursday, he embarrassed me in public. I stared at the notebook. "What is that?" Marisol's eyes glistened instantly. "My record," she said softly. "So nobody can say I'm exaggerating. Nobody. Not you. Not me. Nobody." My throat went dry. "Who are you planning to show that to?" I asked. Marisol wiped at a tear that hadn't fallen yet. "You see?" she whispered. "This is why I can't talk to you. Everything turns into interrogation." My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email notification from my station's admin address. Subject line: Meeting request. Professional conduct. I hadn't even opened it and my stomach already knew what it said. Marisol watched my face change and didn't look surprised. She looked prepared. Like this was the next domino and she'd been waiting to hear it fall. "Open it," she said softly. I tapped the email. One line punched through the screen. "We received a complaint regarding your behavior off-duty. Please meet with supervision tomorrow at 10 a.m. Off-duty. Complaint. I looked up at Marisol, and she was standing on the right side of the kitchen again, phone in hand, face soft and wounded, like she'd been practicing that angle in the mirror. Outside our apartment in the hallway, I heard footsteps pause by our door. Then a quiet click, like someone checking a handle. Marisol's phone lit up again. She covered the screen instantly. But not fast enough. I saw the banner for half a second. Rico. He got the email. Stay calm. Delete alerts. My blood went cold, because now it wasn't just a message, it was a plan. I barely slept. Seattle did that thing where the night never fully turns black, streetlights bleeding into wet pavement, rain tapping the window like it's impatient. I lay there listening to Marisol's breathing, and every time her phone buzzed on the nightstand she'd roll just enough to shield it from me. Not dramatic, not obvious, just practiced. At 6:12 a.m., my phone lit up with another unknown text. Don't show up angry. They're ready. My stomach clenched. I screenshotted it, then watched the notification vanish the second I backed out, like my phone was swallowing proof. By 8:40, I was driving down I-5 in my uniform, wipers dragging back and forth like they were trying to erase the road. My station sits in a part of the city where the air always smells faintly metallic, and the break room coffee is either too weak or strong enough to melt a spoon. Usually, walking in feels like stepping into something solid. Routine, radio chatter, the comfort of people who deal in real emergencies. That morning, it felt like walking into a rumor. Guys who normally greeted me with dumb jokes looked away too fast. A couple of new hires stared like they recognized me from somewhere that wasn't my name tag. One of the medics, Troy, gave me a quick head tilt like a warning. "Yo," he murmured as I passed. "Just Keep it cool. Keep it cool. Everyone's favorite instruction when they already think you won't. I hadn't even hung my jacket before my supervisor texted, "Office, now." No, hey, no, you free, just an order. I walked down the hall with my ID badge tapping my chest and my keys heavy in my pocket, trying to keep my face neutral. The door to the small admin office was cracked open. Inside were 3 people. My supervisor, Captain Wallace, HR, a woman named Denise I'd met once, and a union rep I barely knew, sitting stiffly like he'd been pulled in last minute. On the desk sat a printed packet with my name on it. Next to it, a phone on speaker, glowing, the screen turned face down like it was ashamed. Freeze frame burned into my head. 4 adults in a cramped office, wet jackets draped over chairs, my badge swinging against my chest, a complaint packet on the desk, and Denise's pen poised like she couldn't wait to underline me. Wallace didn't waste time. "Ryan," he said, voice careful, "we got a complaint." "About what?" I asked. Denise slid the packet a few inches toward me. "Off-duty behavior," she said. "Aggressive conduct. Intimidation." My mouth went dry. "From who?" Wallace hesitated, then answered like he didn't like the words. "A community member, and another source who said they've seen a pattern." Pattern. That word again. The word that turns one moment into a personality. I forced myself to breathe slow. "Do you have evidence?" I asked. "Because I've got evidence someone's messing with my phone and accounts." Denise lifted her brows slightly. "Your wife mentioned you've been paranoid," she said, too smooth. "That you believe people are coordinating against you." My pulse spiked, but I kept my hands open on the edge of the desk. "I didn't say that to anyone here," I replied. "So how did it get here?" Wallace's eyes flicked away. "She called," he admitted. "Concerned spouse." Quiet horror is realizing your private life has a direct line into your workplace, and you didn't approve the transfer. The union rep cleared his throat. "Ryan," he said gently, "just answer clean. Short, don't spiral." "I'm not spiraling," I said, then caught myself. Even saying the word felt like stepping onto their language. Denise tapped the packet. "We also received a screenshot," she said, "from a social post." "A social post?" I repeated. Wallace turned his monitor slightly. My stomach dropped when I saw it. A blurry photo of me in a cafe booth. My face mid-sentence, jaw tight. Marisol beside me with her head bowed like she was scared. A caption under it. All white text on a black story background. I couldn't read every word from where I stood, but I caught the line that mattered. "When calm men snap, women pay." My hands went cold. That's not what happened." Denise's voice stayed flat. "Perception matters," she said, "and public perception becomes workplace risk." Workplace risk? Like my ability to save someone's life depended on Instagram vibes. I pulled out my phone. "I can show you messages I'm getting," I said. "Unknown numbers, threats, like someone setting me up." Wallace nodded once. "Okay, show me." I unlocked my phone and nothing. No notifications. No recent unknown texts in the thread list. The screenshot folder was still there, but when I opened it, the newest images were missing. Like my phone had time traveled and decided last night didn't count. My stomach lurched. "That's impossible," I whispered. Denise's pen paused. "What's impossible?" "I had screenshots," I said, swallowing hard. "They were here. The texts were here." The union rep leaned forward, voice low. "Ryan." Wallace watched me with a look I recognized from calls gone sideways, sympathy mixed with caution. "Did you delete them?" he asked. "No," I said. No. Denise's eyes sharpened and her tone turned gentle in the worst way. "Ryan," she said, "if you're not sleeping, if you're under stress, sometimes the mind—" "My mind didn't fabricate a screenshot," I snapped, then immediately lowered my voice. "Sorry, I'm saying someone is deleting things." Wallace exhaled through his nose. "We're putting you on administrative leave for 48 hours, he said, "just until we sort it out." Administrative leave. Clean words. Dirty consequence. I stared at the packet on the desk, at the photo, at Denise's pen, at my badge reflecting fluorescent light like it was already being taken from me. "And my calls?" I asked. "You're off the schedule," Wallace said. "No station access except to return gear." That sentence landed heavier than any stretcher I'd carried. When I walked out, the hallway looked the same, but I felt like everyone's eyes were a little louder. Troy didn't meet my gaze. Someone's phone camera flashed briefly as I passed, then disappeared. By the time I got to my car, my hands were shaking hard enough that the key fob clicked twice before it worked. I sat there with the engine off, rain drumming the windshield, and opened my phone settings like I was troubleshooting a broken device. Notifications. Focus mode. Do not disturb. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Then my phone buzzed with a single banner. "Rico. Good, he's off the schedule. Delete this." It stayed on screen for half a second. Then it vanished. Not swiped, not dismissed. Just gone. My chest tightened. I looked up, and across the lot I saw Marisol's car. She shouldn't have been there. She'd never come near my station. Not once. But there it was, parked 2 rows over, lights off, engine running. And in the driver's seat, Marisol sat with her phone held high, screen glowing against her face, as if she'd been waiting to see whether I'd walk out defeated. I stared at her through the rain. She didn't wave. She just lifted her phone slightly, like a signal, and then the screen went dark. I sat in my car for a full minute, watching Marisol through the rain like I was watching a stranger. Her headlights stayed off, but the engine vibration made her hood tremble. She didn't look over. She didn't have to. She knew I'd see her. My hands were still shaking when I backed out of the lot. I didn't follow her. Not yet. I drove toward the freeway with my jaw clenched so hard it ached, trying to tell myself there was an innocent explanation. She came to check on me. She panicked. She turned around. But the thought didn't stick. At the next light, my phone buzzed again. One bright banner, one breath of proof. Rico. Don't let him talk to Ait. It vanished before I could even tap it. I slammed my palm lightly against the steering wheel, not hard, not dramatic, just enough to feel something real. The light turned green and I drove on muscle memory. Wipers dragging, radio off. My mind running the same loop. How do you fight a problem that disappears the moment you try to point at it? By the time I got home, the mist had turned into steady rain. Our building's lobby smelled like wet dog and cheap cleaning solution. The elevator mirror showed my face too clearly. Tired eyes, rigid jaw, the kind of expression that people label aggressive just because it isn't smiling. Our apartment door opened before I could get my key in all the way. Marisol stood there on the right side of the doorway like she'd chosen her lighting again. She wore a soft sweatshirt and that careful, wounded look. "Where were you?" she asked. I stared at her. "You were at my station." Her face didn't flinch. That's what scared me most. "I drove by," she said. I was worried. You were parked, I corrected, voice low. Engine on. Watching. Marisol's eyes shimmered instantly. You're scaring me, she whispered like it was a reflex. I stepped into the apartment, shaking rain off my jacket. The living room looked normal. Blanket folded, candles on the shelf, the same framed photo of us at Pike Place smiling like we didn't know what was coming. But something was off. My laptop was closed on the coffee table instead of my desk. My keys bowl by the door had been moved a few inches, centered too neatly. Even the throw pillows looked corrected. I kept my voice flat. Why did you come to my station? Marisol sighed, like I was exhausting her on purpose. Because you weren't answering, she said. Because you've been acting different. I was in a meeting with HR, I said. Because you called them. Her eyes flicked away for half a second, toward her phone on the counter, face down. I didn't call HR, she said. I called the station. I was worried about you. Worried enough to give them a story, I said. Marisol crossed her arms, still calm. If you weren't acting like this, there wouldn't be a story. That sentence was a lock clicking shut. I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up her phone. Not snatching it, just lifting it like a test. The screen stayed dark. No notifications, no banners. Like it had been trained to behave when I was nearby. Marisol's voice sharpened. Put that down. Open your messages, I said. No, she replied, immediate. Then open your notification history, I said, because I saw Rico's name. Marisol stepped closer, eyes wet, voice soft for an imaginary audience. You're obsessed, she whispered. I can't live like this. The quiet horror hit again. Realizing she wasn't answering me, she was writing a caption. I set her phone down carefully and pulled mine out. I'm going to the carrier store, I said. Someone's deleting messages off my device. Marisol's breath hitched. Don't, she said too fast. That was the first honest reaction I'd gotten all day. I held her gaze. Why not? She swallowed. Because you'll embarrass yourself, she said, smoothing it out. You'll look unstable. Unstable. The word that had crawled into my life like mold. I left anyway. The carrier store was bright and warm, all polished counters and smiling posters. I waited behind a guy buying a new phone case while rainwater dripped off my sleeve onto the tile. When it was my turn, a young rep with a neat haircut said, "What can I help you with today?" I leaned in and kept my voice low. My notifications appear and vanish. My screenshots disappeared. I think someone has access to my account. He blinked, then nodded like he'd heard this before. Let's take a look, he said. He pulled my account up on his screen. I watched his eyes move, his smile fading a little. Okay, he said slowly. There were changes. What kind of changes? My throat tightened. He turned the monitor slightly so I could see without reading anything sensitive. An authorized user was added, he said, and your recovery contact was updated. I felt my stomach drop through the floor. When? He glanced at a timestamp. Yesterday evening. Yesterday evening. While I was home. While Marisol was fine. While Rico's name blinked on her screen and then disappeared. Who added it? I asked. He hesitated in that careful corporate way. The name on the authorized user is Rico. My mouth went dry. Can you print a confirmation that changes were made? I asked. He nodded. I can print a summary that the account was modified and the date time, he said. No private info, just the changelog. When the printer spit out the page, it felt like holding oxygen. A plain sheet, neutral wording, timestamp, the kind of boring proof that matters more than emotion ever will. On my way out, my phone buzzed. One more banner. One more ghost. Rico. He went to the store. I told you. It vanished before my thumb touched the screen. I stood under the awning outside the store, rain hammering down, and stared at my phone like it was a traitor. Then I looked up, because sometimes your body knows you're being watched before your eyes confirm it. Across the parking lot, half hidden behind a row of cars, was Camilla's SUV. Camilla, Marisol's closest friend, the one who'd gone quiet at brunch. And in the driver's seat, someone held a phone up at chest height, screen glowing, pointed straight at me. A clean, sharp frame locked in my mind. Me on the left, under the awning with the printed paper in my hand. Rain streaking past the bright store lights. Camilla's SUV in the background. A phone glow behind the windshield. And my own reflection in the glass looking like a man caught doing something wrong, when all I'd done was ask for the truth. I got back home with the paper folded in my pocket like a secret weapon. The apartment was silent. Marisol was sitting on the couch, posture perfect, phone in her hand, gaze fixed on the blank TV screen like she'd been waiting for a cue. On the coffee table sat my laptop, open now, and my station email pulled up, cursor blinking in the middle of a draft. My draft, but I hadn't typed it. The subject line made my blood go cold. Request for voluntary leave due to stress. I stood there, rain still dripping off my jacket, staring at the words like they were a hand around my throat. Marisol didn't look up. She just said softly, "See? This is what I mean. You can't handle pressure." I couldn't breathe for a second, because the cursor was still blinking, as if whoever wrote it had stepped away for one moment and expected me to finish it. I stared at the draft on my laptop like it was a confession I'd never written. Request for voluntary leave due to stress. My name in the signature line. My station email address in the From field. The cursor blinking mid-paragraph like the person typing had simply stood up to wash their hands. Marisol sat on the couch, calm enough to make me feel insane for having a pulse. Her phone rested in her palm, screen down, thumb still. She didn't look at the laptop. She looked at me, like my reaction was the only thing that mattered. "Close it," I said. "Why?" she asked softly. "It's your truth, isn't it? It's not my words." I kept my voice even, the way I do when someone's bleeding out and everyone around them is panicking. And it wasn't open when I left. Marisol's eyes glistened on cue. "You're accusing me again," she whispered. I didn't argue. I reached past the coffee table and gently lowered the screen, not slamming it, not giving anyone a clip-worthy moment. Then I slid the laptop toward me and stood, putting it on the kitchen counter where the light was brighter. "Do not touch it," I said, still calm. Marisol rose fast. She moved to the right side of the kitchen entrance, half blocking the walkway without actually blocking it. "You're not allowed to police me," she said. "I'm not policing you," I replied. "I'm protecting my job." Her phone chimed, just once, then silence. She covered it instinctively. That tiny motion, again. A reflex with practice behind it. I pulled the folded carrier printout from my pocket and smoothed it on the counter like a warrant. "An authorized user named Rico was added to my account," I said, "yesterday evening, with timestamps." Marisol's face flickered, fear for half a second. Then the mask slid back on. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. Then why do his messages appear and vanish? I asked. Why did my screenshots disappear? Why did HR get a complaint after you called my station? Marisol's voice stayed soft, but her eyes went hard. Because you've been scaring me, she said. Quiet horror is realizing the accusation is the weapon, and your denial is just the trigger. My phone buzzed. A banner flashed for a breath. Rico, don't let him keep the paper. It vanished before I could tap it. My stomach turned, but I didn't show it. I slid the printout into a kitchen drawer without looking away from Marisol, like I was hiding a lighter in a windstorm. Marisol's lips parted. You're hiding things from me now, she said, like that was the betrayal. A knock hit the door. Not police. Not yet, just fast, familiar knocks that said, friend, but carried the energy of, we're here to manage you. Marisol's shoulders loosened. Relief, like she'd been waiting for backup. She opened the door, and Camilla walked in first, rain beating on her jacket, phone already in her hand. Javi followed, eyes cautious, hands empty like he was trying to look safe. Nessa came last, glancing around our apartment like she was scanning for danger. The room instantly felt staged. Marisol stood on the right side near the hallway, face soft and wet-eyed. Camilla hovered slightly behind her shoulder, phone angled low but pointed. Javi took the center spot like a mediator. Nessa lingered near the kitchen entrance, arms folded tight, gaze flicking between my face and my hands. Javi tried a gentle tone. Bro, we're not here to fight, he said. We just want to make sure everyone's okay. Then tell Camilla to put the phone away, I said, calm. Camilla's eyebrows lifted. I'm not recording, she said immediately. Her screen reflected in the dark TV like a little moon. I could see my own silhouette in it. Marisol's voice went shaky. He's been obsessing, she told them like she was offering context. He thinks my cousin is hacking him. I stared at her. You told them about Rico. Javi held up both hands. Marisol's scared, he said, and you're intense right now. I'm standing in my own living room, I said, with my work email open to a draft I didn't write. Nessa's eyes narrowed. Maybe you wrote it and forgot, she said softly, like she was delivering a diagnosis. I felt my jaw tighten, and I forced it loose again. I went to the carrier store, I said. They printed proof my account was modified. Authorized user added. Recovery contact changed. That's not a feeling. That's a log. Camilla's phone rose a fraction. Javi's mouth opened, then closed. Marisol blinked fast, the way she did when she needed tears to arrive. You see, she whispered to them, he's spiraling. That word hit like a slap, even though she barely raised her voice. I turned to Javi, staying controlled. If you came here as friends, help me do one simple thing, I said. Open my laptop, pull up sent mail, look at the timestamp for that voluntary leave draft. Marisol stepped forward too quickly. No, she said. Why not? I asked. Because you're escalating, she replied, voice still sweet. You're trying to trap me. I stared at her, heart pounding, and suddenly it clicked. It didn't matter what was true. It mattered what looked true. On camera. Another frozen frame burned into my mind. Me on the left with wet hair and open hands trying to keep my voice low. Javi centered, palms out like he was calming a dangerous man. Nessa near the kitchen doorway with a tight frown. Camilla behind Marisol with her phone glowing. Marisol on the right with tears and a steady chin. My closed laptop on the counter. And somewhere in a drawer, the carrier printout like the only honest thing in the apartment. I took a slow breath. "Camilla," I said, eyes on her phone, "if you're not recording, show me your screen. Right now." Camilla's smile sharpened. "That's controlling," she said. Marisol's voice rose just enough to sound wounded. "Stop interrogating my friends," she said. And then my station email pinged on my phone. A new outgoing message confirmation. Subject line: Voluntary leave request. Confirmation. My blood went cold, because I was standing right there in front of all of them, holding my phone. I hadn't touched my laptop since they walked in. My hands had been visible the whole time. Javi saw my face change and leaned in. "What?" he asked. I turned the screen outward, just briefly, enough for them to see the subject line without letting anyone grab the device. "It just sent," I said quietly. "From my account." Marisol's lips parted. Her eyes flicked to the laptop on the counter for half a second. That was all it took. Because it wasn't fear in her face. It was timing. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number, one quick flash. "Sign it, or we call." It vanished, like always. I looked up at Marisol. "Who is we?" I asked, voice flat. Marisol's tears finally fell. "I can't do this," she whispered, and she backed toward the right side of the hallway like she was retreating from danger. Camilla stepped with her, phone still aimed low. Javi swallowed hard. "Ryan," he said, voice careful now. "Just step back. Calm down." I stared at him. "I am calm," I said. "You're watching someone steal my job in real time." The knock hit the door again, this time heavier, official. A voice followed from the hallway outside, calm and professional. "Seattle Police Department. Welfare check." And Marisol didn't look surprised. She looked like the next domino had finally fallen. The second knock wasn't the polite kind. It was the kind that said someone had already decided what the problem was, and now they just needed your face to match it. "Seattle Police Department. Welfare check." Marisol stood on the right side of the hallway with her shoulders curled in, eyes shiny, hands empty like she'd rehearsed innocence. Camilla stayed behind her, phone low, still angled like a nervous habit. Javi hovered center with his palms half raised, and Nessa planted herself near the kitchen entrance like a guard. I walked to the door slowly, hands visible, and opened it. Two officers stood there, rain beating on their jackets, posture calm but alert. The older one looked past me immediately, scanning the room like he'd done this 1,000 times. The younger one spotted Marisol and softened his voice. "Ma'am," he said, "we got a call about a domestic situation and concerns about your safety." Marisol's breath hitched perfectly. "I didn't want to call," she whispered. I don't know what he's capable of anymore." The words landed in the room like a thrown glass, and everybody froze around them. I felt my jaw tighten, and I forced it loose. "Officer," I said, steady, "my station put me on leave today because of a complaint that came from this apartment. My work email just sent a message I didn't write while I was standing here, with witnesses." The older officer's eyes flicked toward Javi. "You're a witness?" he asked. Javi swallowed. "We came because Marisol was scared," he said carefully. Nessa added, too quick, "He's been intense." Camilla didn't say anything. Her phone glowed faintly as she adjusted her grip. The older officer held up a hand. "Sir," he said to me, "I need you to step back and let us speak with your wife." I nodded because refusing would turn into a different kind of story. They stepped into the living room. Marisol moved a half step closer to them like she was seeking protection. She kept her face angled just right, eyes wet, voice quiet. She didn't describe what happened. She described what I felt like. "He watches my phone," she said. "He accuses me of things. He gets obsessed and won't let it go." I heard Javi murmur, "Yeah," like he was agreeing with a vibe, not a fact. I took a breath and spoke only when the older officer looked at me. "May I show you something?" I asked. He nodded once. Briefly. I reached for my phone slowly and opened my email. The outgoing message confirmation was still there, time-stamped minutes ago. "Here," I said, holding it out but not handing it over. "This sent while I was in the room." The younger officer leaned in. "Did you send that?" he asked. "No," I said. "And if you check my laptop, you'll see it was open to a draft I didn't write." Marisol's voice sharpened, still soft. "See? He's doing it again. He thinks everyone is hacking him." The older officer's gaze moved from my phone to my laptop on the counter. "Can you unlock it?" he asked. "I can," I said, "but I don't want anyone else touching it." "Then unlock it," he repeated. I walked to the counter. Marisol tensed behind me. I could feel it. I opened the laptop and logged in. The sent folder loaded. My stomach dropped. The message wasn't just sent. It was already replied to. A short response from station admin sat there like a nail through paper. "Received. We will process your leave request effective immediately." Effective immediately. I stared at the screen, rainwater still dripping off my sleeve onto the tile, and felt that quiet horror again. The way reality can be rewritten while you stand there trying to behave. The older officer looked at the timestamp, then at me. "Who has access to this?" he asked. "Me," I said, "and apparently someone else." Marisol let out a small sob, perfectly timed. "This is what I mean," she whispered to the officers. "He's convincing himself there are conspiracies." Camilla's phone angled a little higher. My phone buzzed. A banner flashed for a split second. "Rico. Make her cry. Keep him talking." It vanished before my thumb touched the screen, like always. But this time, I didn't reach for it. I didn't chase it. I just stared at Marisol and realized the performance wasn't for me. It was for the room. The younger officer turned to Marisol gently. "Ma'am," he said, "do you want him to leave tonight?" Marisol hesitated just long enough to look like it hurt. Then she nodded. "I need space," she said, "for my safety." The older officer's voice stayed neutral. "Sir, we recommend separation for the night. Do you have somewhere to go?" I looked at Javi. "You came here as friends," I said quietly. "Did you know they were going to call?" Javi's face tightened. "Bro, don't—" he started. Nessa cut in, voice sharp. "Stop blaming everyone." Marisol whispered, "Please," and the word sounded like a blade wrapped in velvet. I nodded slowly. "I'll leave," I said to the officers, "but I need my personal belongings and my work gear, and I want it documented that this email situation happened while you were here." The older officer paused, then nodded once. "We can note what we observed," he said carefully. "We don't do IT investigations." "I know," I said. "Just note it." They watched while I grabbed a duffel and my charger. Marisol stayed on the right side of the hallway, arms folded around herself, looking small. Camilla hovered behind her with that phone glow, recording or not recording depending on who asked. As I zipped the duffel, something caught my eye on the coffee table. Marisol's little notebook again. The record. It was open now to a page I hadn't seen. There, in neat handwriting, was a line that made my skin go cold. If he starts to prove it, call again. Below, it was a time written in bold. 8:30 p.m. That was in 20 minutes. My throat went tight. I looked up at Marisol. She met my eyes without tears for the first time all night. Then her phone, face down in her hand, vibrated once. Silent. Her thumb moved in that familiar, practiced rhythm. Delete. Confirm. And the older officer's radio crackled, low and sudden, pulling his attention away. I stepped toward the door with my bag, raincoat in my hand, feeling like I was walking out of my own life on someone else's schedule. In the hallway outside our apartment, I heard another door open down the corridor. A voice I recognized floated through the damp air. Too familiar, too confident. "Marisol?" it called softly. "You okay in there?" Rico's voice, not a text, not a banner, a real voice in my building. And before I could even turn my head, Marisol spoke from behind the door, gentle and relieved. "Yeah, come in." The hallway smelled like wet carpet and someone's burnt dinner. I stood there with my duffel in one hand and my raincoat in the other, trying to keep my face neutral while my life got rearranged behind my own door. The officers were still inside, their voices low, calm, procedural. Marisol's soft crying drifted out like a soundtrack. Then I heard it again. Too close, too real. "Marisol?" the voice called. "You okay in there?" My stomach tightened so hard it felt like I'd swallowed a fist. Rico stepped into view from down the corridor, moving like he belonged in my building. Late 20s, clean haircut, a rain-dark hoodie, and a lanyard tucked into his pocket like he'd just come from somewhere official. He carried a small tool pouch slung over one shoulder and a slim laptop bag in his hand. He looked at me for half a second, and his eyes flicked to my duffel like he was checking a box. "Hey," he said, too casual, like we'd already met. I didn't answer. I couldn't, not without my voice changing. Behind the door, Marisol's voice floated out, gentle and relieved. "Yeah, come in." The older officer opened the door wider, and Rico walked right past me like I was furniture. As he crossed the threshold, Marisol's tears stopped on a dime. She inhaled once, steadying herself, then stepped closer to him like a magnet finding metal. Camilla hovered behind her with her phone, face tight. Javi and Nessa stood near the living room like they'd been told where to stand. The older officer's gaze snapped to Rico. "Sir," he said, "who are you?" Rico smiled, polite. "I'm her cousin," he said. "Family support." Marisol nodded too quickly. "He's helping," she whispered, but the younger officer's eyes drifted to the tool pouch and the laptop bag. "Helping with what?" he asked. Rico hesitated, just a beat too long. Just getting things sorted," he said. My mouth went dry. "Sorted," I repeated, quiet. Rico's eyes flicked toward me again, and I saw it. Annoyance, not fear. Like I was an obstacle, not a threat. The older officer turned to Marisol. "Ma'am, you asked for him to leave for the night," he said. "Why is another person coming into the unit now?" Marisol's voice stayed soft. "I'm scared," she said. "I need people I trust." Rico stepped in smoothly. "We're just trying to de-escalate," he said, using the same word the police had used. Like it belonged to him, too. That word, de-escalate, hit me like a bell, because I'd heard it all day, and it had always meant one thing: remove Ryan. I did the only thing I could do without raising my voice. I opened the voice memo app on my phone and hit record with my thumb, keeping it low by my thigh. Rico didn't notice. Or he didn't care. He walked toward my kitchen counter like he knew where everything was. His eyes landed on my laptop, and his shoulders eased, like seeing it was a relief. "There," he murmured almost to himself. "Good." The younger officer heard it. "What do you mean, good?" he asked. Rico blinked, then smiled wider. "I mean, good that he's leaving," he said. "No more conflict." Marisol's eyes stayed on the floor. Camilla's phone glow reflected off her cheek. The older officer held up a hand again. "Sir," he said to Rico, "step back. Don't touch anything." Rico froze, then took a small step away from the counter. He raised his hand slightly, playing innocent. I watched Marisol's face. She didn't look surprised by the officer's suspicion. She looked irritated. Quiet horror is realizing your wife isn't worried about the police misunderstanding. She's worried the police might understand too much. The older officer turned to me. "Sir," he said, "do you have your essentials?" "I do," I replied, "but I need one thing documented before I go. My phone carrier confirmed my account was modified and an authorized user was added with the name Rico." I put the printout in the kitchen drawer. Rico's head snapped toward me. His jaw tightened for half a second before he smoothed it out. Marisol's eyes lifted, sharp. "He's lying," she said quickly. "He's trying to frame my family." The younger officer looked at Rico again. "What's your full name?" he asked. Rico swallowed. "Rico Alvarez," he said. "And you're on his phone account?" the younger officer pressed. Rico laughed once, too bright. "No, that's crazy." I kept my tone flat. "Officer, may I retrieve the paper?" I asked. The older officer nodded. "Go ahead. Slow." I walked to the kitchen like I was walking on thin ice. I opened the drawer and pulled out the carrier printout. My hands were steady now. Proof does that to me. It turns panic into focus. I held it out. The older officer took it, scanned the timestamp, and his face changed just slightly. Not accusation. Attention. He looked up at Rico. "Sir," he said, "this shows an authorized user was added with your first name yesterday evening. Do you have an explanation?" Rico's smile faltered. He glanced at Marisol, and for the first time all night her face wasn't soft. It was hard, warning him silently. Rico tried to recover. Maybe someone used my name," he said. The younger officer's voice stayed calm. "Do you have access to his devices?" he asked. Rico shook his head too fast. "No." Camilla's phone buzzed. She flinched and turned its screen down like she'd been trained. That tiny motion again. That same reflex Marisol had. The older officer noticed. "Ma'am," he said to Camilla, "are you recording right now?" Camilla's lips parted. "No," she said. "Show me your screen," the officer replied, neutral but firm. Camilla froze. Javi shifted like he wanted to disappear into the wall. Nessa's eyes darted to Marisol, then away. Camilla's hands trembled as she lifted the phone. The screen was open to a live video call. A woman's face filled it. Denise from HR. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like falling. Denise's eyes widened when she realized she was on display. Her mouth opened, then closed. The call ended instantly, like someone had slammed a door. For a second, nobody spoke. Then the older officer exhaled slowly, like he was recalculating. He looked from Camilla's phone to my carrier printout to Rico's tool pouch. "All right," he said, voice controlled. "Everyone needs to step back. Now." Rico's face flushed. Marisol's shoulders stiffened. Camilla looked like she'd swallowed glass. The younger officer looked at me with a different expression than before. Less, manage this man. More, something's off here. "Sir," he said quietly, "do you have somewhere safe to go tonight?" I nodded once. "Yes." "Go," he said, "and don't come back alone." I turned toward the door with my duffel, and that's when Rico hissed under his breath. Not loud, but not quiet enough. "Just sign the leave, and this ends." My phone caught it. The voice memo caught it. The officers heard the tail end of it too, because the older officer's head snapped back. "What did you say?" he demanded. Rico froze. "Nothing," he said. But the moment was already real. It had weight. It couldn't be deleted with a thumb swipe. I walked out into the rain and didn't look back until the elevator doors closed. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't helpless shaking. It was adrenaline, the kind that comes right before you stop being polite. I spent the night on my friend Marcus's couch, and at 3:18 a.m., my phone rang from an unknown number. I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a transcription appeared. "Ryan, don't do this. Just sign it. We can all move on." Rico's voice. The next morning, I emailed my station from my personal account with 3 attachments: the carrier modification log, the voicemail transcription, and the audio clip from my voice memo where Rico told me to sign the leave. I kept the email short, boring, undeniable. I did not send the voluntary leave request. My account was accessed without my consent. Please preserve logs. Then I filed a report with my carrier to remove the authorized user. I changed every password from a device Marisol had never touched. I enabled 2-factor authentication with a physical key. I requested an internal IT audit at the station and demanded HR disclose any communications with community members who weren't my employer. And while all of that moved slowly, because real life always does, the friend group blew up fast. Camilla called me 2 days later, voice shaking. Not performative this time. "He told me he was helping Marisol because you were unstable," she whispered. "He told me HR asked for documentation. I didn't know Denise was on the call." "Camilla," I said softly, "you were in my home with your phone pointed at me. You knew enough." She started crying for real. "Marisol said you'd hurt her," she choked out. "She said we had to protect her." Protect. The word people use when they want to feel righteous while doing damage. I moved out the next week with a police escort. Not because I was dangerous, but because I wasn't willing to give them a scene. Marisol tried to call it space. Rico tried to call it closure. I called it what it was: a coordinated push to make me look unstable, resign quietly, and disappear. My station reinstated me after the audit showed repeated logins from an unknown device on our shared home network during the exact window my email sent. HR never apologized. They just got careful. Marisol didn't call me a monster anymore once proof existed. She called me cold. Like not exploding was its own cruelty. The last time I saw her, she stood on the right side of a lobby with her chin lifted, eyes dry, Rico nowhere in sight, Camilla not answering her calls. She looked at me like I'd ruined her life. But all I'd done was refuse to sign my own erasure. And in the quiet after, I learned the hardest truth of all. When someone is determined to rewrite you, your calm is the one thing they can't edit, as long as you keep receipts that don't disappear.